Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Chris. Together we're the Gen X couple.
Hey guys!
Take one. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. We'll get right to it today. Today we're going to tell you some stories of bold thefts, clever cons, and outrageous schemes that shaped centuries of New England history. These aren't just tales of villains, you guys. They're stories about people, communities, economies, trust, and the creative ways that some individuals tried to blend all of that to their will.
Exactly. And the thread that ties all these together isn't just crime, it's context. New England's ports, its banks, its farms, its forests all provide the setting for acts of ingenuity.
Of acts of what?
Ingenuity.
Did you mean ingenuity?
Yes. Some were violent, some were brazen, and others were almost laughable clever.
Laughably clever. Oh my God, should we start this over?
No. But every one of them left a mark on the towns and townspeople who lived through them.
You know what it is? You speed read, and you're reading too fast, so you're missing some of the words.
No, you're just giving me the hard words.
No, it really makes me question having you proofread some of my books, because it should be obvious. I don't even need to say it. Anyway, I love you, though. Let's start with a story that's widely known but still packed with detail. One of my favorite stories of all time, you guys. We're going to talk about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist in Boston that took place on March 18th, 1990. Wait, it was that recent?
That's like 35 years ago.
That was like 2 weeks ago. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I didn't even realize it happened in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That was like fairly well into my lifetime also.
Yeah, you were in...
Don't say it! Because I'm only 29, so we don't want to talk about that. I didn't realize it was so recent. That is recent, you guys. If you're a kid, just wait until you're our age. You'll understand why I'm saying that. But 1990 was like a few weeks ago. I can't believe that. Anyway... This is one of my favorite stories. It wasn't any kind of like a messy, chaotic break-in. It was executed with precision, and that's why I'm so fascinated by it. So, the story goes like this. 2 men dressed as Boston police officers arrived at the museum shortly before closing. They told the guards that they were responding to a disturbance outside. And at first the guards were suspicious, but then when one of the disguised men flashed what looked like an official ID, an ID that almost exactly matched the IDs that would be used by the Boston Police Department at the time, they were convinced. So once the thieves were inside, instead of searching for a disturbance, the men restrained both of the security guards from the museum with plastic cuffs and left them hidden. I don't know where. I should have put that down. My bad. What happened next, though, was methodical. Over the course of 81 minutes, you guys, 81, that's a long time. That's almost an hour and a half for those of you who can't do math yet. The thieves moved through the private galleries, choosing very specific works of art. And the pieces they took weren't random. They targeted certain artists and mediums. Among them were Vermeer's The Concert, Rembrandt's Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee, and several rare sketches by Edgar Degas. They cut the paintings from their frames, leaving the light fixtures and the labels intact on the walls.
Now, so security systems at the time were rudimentary compared to today. There were no motion detectors covering every inch of every gallery, and the guards were alone that night. The thieves exited through a side door and disappeared into Boston's night. For years, the FBI and Interpol have followed leads, from tips that organized crime figures sold the works on the black market to rumors some paintings were hidden in a safe house. Family members of the original museum founder, Isabella Stewart Gardner, have said publicly that they believe the work still exists somewhere, hidden, unauctioned, and maybe held by secret collectors who don't know what they have.
I've said that all along. They're in somebody's attic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in a storage unit.
Yeah, like I think that they just it got passed around. I mean, it could be a private collector because I know some people.
It's like someone who doesn't know what they have.
Yeah, that's totally what I think.
Which
too.
could be me. I might have it in my basement. And I wouldn't be able to tell.
I can guarantee you that unless it's a Tony Chicheri, which is my mom original, Tara Chicheri original, because I don't think I have anything since she's been married, or something from Target, you do not have one of these in our house. Right. Guaranteed.
Dang it, because I wanted the reward money. But if you go to the museum today, the frames still hang empty there, and visitors can go in as both the memorials and evidence that the crime was personally reverent, almost in its careful selection.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they left it there. That's actually one of my favorite parts. It's just, I don't know, it blows my mind that these were so perfectly planned. And it took them almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And nobody was alerted. I know there wasn't security back then like there is now, but it's incredible to me that they planned it and they pulled it off. All these years later, which actually is only 2 weeks, as we already discussed, because 1990 just happened. But it's crazy that they're still missing. It's crazy. It's one of my favorite stories. And the Boston Globe and some other newspapers, maybe the Boston Herald, described the theft as, quote, surgical. No unnecessary damage, no destroyed property, just exactly what the thieves wanted. They knew what they were going for. And the more you read about it, the more it feels less like a burglary and more like an extraction.
Now we're going to jump back in time a little bit to August 14th, 1962. We come to what was at the time the largest postal robbery in American history, the Plymouth Mail Truck heist. Now, a U.S. Postal Service armored truck was en route to the Federal Reserve in Boston from Cape Cod, carrying nearly $1.5 million in cash and savings bonds, untraceable small bills that made them ideal for laundering.
Do they still make savings bonds? Is that even a thing anymore?
I think they stopped a few years ago because I did have a couple for the boys.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we still have some that the boy, my grandmother got the boys some when they were born. And are they worth anything?
Probably.
What do you do with them? Can a bank take them?
You have to go
I'm getting my own education.
You have to go online and set up a bond account, savings bond account, and then you can mail them in, and then the bonds will go onto your online account. And then if you ever want to cash out, then you just go online and cash it out. I'm
going to just take a pause here. This is why I love you. You have all these random, crazy bits of information in your brain. I can ask him anything.
Well, it's not random because we do have a few savings bonds.
Yeah, but who knows that information?
No, but we have some. You and me.
Yeah, I have some, but I don't know.
No, you and me have some on our online account.
Where did we get savings bonds?
I did an investment when the percentage interest was like 7 to 8%.
You know this stuff. This is what I'm saying. You know this kind of stuff. I have no idea. I didn't even know we had these. Okay, carry on.
So, again, on this postal robbery, the robbers used police uniforms. And this was not a ruse, but as a psychological lever. The postal truck drivers at the time were trained to trust law enforcement in the field, and this trust was exploited deliberately. 2 men stopped the truck on a rural road near Plymouth. They produced badges and uniforms, convinced the driver to pull over, and then restrained both the driver and the armed guard. They transferred the cash into another vehicle, drove it to multiple dumping locations along rural back roads, distributed bundles of cash, and then abandoned the truck and captives along Route 128 in Randolph.
And here's where it really gets strange. Despite one of the largest sums ever stolen by that point, almost none of the money was ever recovered. The postal inspectors, FBI, and local law enforcement conducted massive searches. They interviewed dozens of suspects and even seized property of known organized crime figures in Boston, but the trail went cold. Some investigators believed that the theft was organized crime and possibly connected to syndicates with ties across the Northeast. Sorry. Others thought that it might have been a small but very well-prepared team of thieves who had knowledge of the postal route and schedules, but no one was ever convicted for that location theft. The newspapers of the day printed photos of the abandoned truck, detailed maps of the search area, and interviews with the driver and guard, both of whom said that the robbers were calm and professional, not reckless.
Now, Boston seemed destined to be the thought of as a heist city, because 10 years earlier, in the winter of 1950, came the Brink's robbery, one of the largest cash and security thefts in the U.S. history at the time. The Brink's Company was a major security firm transporting cash for banks and business across the Northeast. On January 17, 1950, a group of robbers wearing Halloween-style masks, gloves, and bulky clothing entered the safe company headquarters in Boston's North End just after closing. They bound employees with telephone cords and tape, then methodically removed more than $1.2 million in cash and $1.5 million in securities. And what made this robbery so infamous wasn't just the amount,
Infamous?
which was massive for the era, but the precision. The robbers had studied the building's layout, employee routines, and the elevator schedules. They executed the crime with a calmness that suggested professional planning.
And unlike other heists you may see in Hollywood, here there was no trial by fireworks or gun battles. The group just slipped away. It took the FBI years to crack down suspects. Ultimately, 4 men were convicted, others were indicted, and it became part of the lore of Boston crime history. The Brink's robbery is still studied by criminologists because of how organized it was. There was teamwork, timing, communication, and a very clear exit plan. Some of the stolen securities were found, and some weren't. Decades later, New England forensic accountants and law enforcement scholars still analyze this case. And going even further back in time, we have a different kind of raid. Not purely criminal for personal profit, pulled a Chris, but a cross-border wartime theft that reads like a spy heist. It's the St. Albans raid of 1864.
Now, during the Civil War, Confederate operatives launched an incursion into northern Vermont from Canada. The goal was to rob banks in St. Albans, and that's exactly what they did. In October of that year, a group of Confederate raiders entered the town, intimidated townspeople, and systematically robbed 3 banks, taking an estimate $208,000, which was an enormous sum at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The men then burned the buildings, seized supplies, and tried to burn down parts of the town before fleeing back into Canadian territory. Some were arrested by Canadian authorities, but most of the loot and participants slipped through the legal cracks. This wasn't just a roadside robbery, it was a planned tactical maneuver as part of the larger Confederate strategy of creating diversions and acquiring funds. Vermont residents were stunned that a war thousands of miles away could make its way to their doorsteps. Newspapers across New England reported the event with a mix of outrage and disbelief. For decades afterward, historians debated the extent of support Confederate agents had from locals and how a small town could become the scene of a wartime theft.
I can't wait to see how you pronounce this word coming up. Okay, go.
So in rural Maine, there was another famous heist that predated most of the national known ones. The Bodenham Bank robbery.
Okay, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought you were going to butcher it. I think it's Bodenham.
And it's a bank robbery of June 1866.
Why did we do these backwards? We should have gone oldest to newest.
4 men entered the bank at night and robbed it of more than $73,000 in cash and bonds.
You just should have said the National Village Bank. I know you skipped over it because you didn't want to repeat the name of the town, but you could have still said the National Village Bank.
Right. But what shocked the locals wasn't just the theft, it was the violence. The bank's cashier was bound and clubbed during the robbery.
Clubbed?
The man escaped by carriage into the surrounding woods.
That made me think of like Fred Flintstone or Captain Caveman.
Yeah.
I know I just dated myself.
Maine officers pursued them for months and eventually leading to arrest, but much of the stolen bonds were never recovered. And eyewitness newspapers accounts from the Portland Daily Press described the community reaction as fear, anger, and disbelief that such a crime could occur in their quiet farming town.
I know, you don't think about stuff like that happening up in Maine. And the further back we go, the more we find that crime doesn't have to look modern to be clever. In the late 1600s and early 1700s, John Wampus, who was a Native American living in the Quansigamog Pond area of Massachusetts. I may have butchered that, and I do apologize. It's Quansigamog. So this guy, John Wampus, lived in that area, and he exploited colonial land claims by selling the same parcel of land multiple times, sometimes to English settlers, sometimes to native neighbors, both without clear legal authority. Records from Plymouth Colony and early Massachusetts courts show that Wampus knew how to navigate shifting jurisdiction, pre-existing land claims, and colonial confusion to his advantage. He was never jailed for outright fraud, but the disputes his sales caused lingered in court rolls for decades. It's an example of early legal exploitation, a swindle rooted not in violence but ambiguity. It's an era before modern deed registries and title searches, and clever individuals could exploit that with vigor.
And another figure steeped in swindle and crime is Henry Tufts. He was born in New Hampshire in the late 1700s. Tufts was a thief, a horse stealer, counterfeiter, prison escape artist, and a self-described rogue, whose 1807 autobiography reads like the diary of an outlaw. He stole livestock and goods from farms across New England, repeatedly escaped jail, once burning his way through the walls, and sold stolen items in town markets. His exploits took him across Maine and New Hampshire, and his narrative provides a rare first-hand account of criminal life in the era before professional police forces. He wasn't a mastermind, he was an opportunist, and he was driven by survival. But his autobiography became a source for later historians studying early American crime.
In 1769, Salem, merchants ran what is now called the Salem Lottery Swindle. They sold tickets supposedly to fund a community project, maybe like a wharf or something, public building, or a town improvement. But only friends and family of the merchants won the prizes, and the ticket profits vanished as the organizers moved on. Newspaper accounts from the Salem Gazette describe outraged citizens demanding refunds, town meetings calling for investigation, but all too often the merchants had already disappeared or claimed to be insolvent by that time. It's one of the earliest recorded examples of civic fraud in New England.
Infrastructure scams weren't rare either. In Connecticut in 1824, a man sold shares in a bridge that didn't exist. Investors paid handsomely upfront, expecting toll revenue or future profits. When they visited the site, there was only a river and a few logs. By then, the swindle was long gone. Mm-hmm. And the story circulated for years afterward, after newspapers mocked the gullibility of inland investors, but also underscored the lack of centralized planning and documentation in early infrastructure development.
Yeah, I think with that, we're probably just going to wrap it up. We have a few more, but they're not that exciting, so I think we'll spare you. We've droned on long enough. I caught a glimpse of the software, and we're already at 18 minutes, which is long for us, so we're going to wrap it up, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening. If I sound like I'm slurring my speech, I swear. I'm having an issue with my jaw, and I have TMJ and it moved, so sorry if I slurred at all. I can feel it when I talk, but there you have it. Hope you liked the episode. Follow us on social media, although I'm really bad about posting over there. Blah, blah, blah. You know the rest.
All right. See you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.